So, you love Firebase, you love Firestore, and you have already learned how to save data to Firestore, but how to make meaningful queries from that database. Today, we are going to dive deep into that. We are going to learn how to query from Firebase's Firestore database. Alex here from Rebeloper.com, and if you do like these kind of videos, go ahead and subscribe. And while you are at it, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. It will really be appreciated. So let's open up Xcode and dive in. Today, I'm going to show you how easily you can query your documents from Firestore. But before we jump into the video, let me remind you about Developers Dev Factory. It's at rebeloper.com/mentoring. If you have any SwiftUI, UI kit questions, or you want to learn SwiftUI, go ahead and check out the 60-minute Zoom course with me. Or if you have a bug in your code, I'm available for you. Okay, go ahead and check out rebeloper.com/mentoring. So let's dive into today's video that is going to be about Firebase and querying. I have prepared here a little bit of a new app, and how do you get these files? Well, go ahead and check out the link in the description where you have a link for all of the resources on my YouTube channel, and then just select the current date that this video is published on, and then there you have the resources, and those resources are all of these files. Well, the app delegate adapter, well, not the Firestore queries app file, well, you have your own app.swift file. Go ahead and make sure that you just copy out the contents of that file like this. The only change is this one. Okay, so that's that. And if you are interested on how I build this out, why I build this out, you will learn along this tutorial, or just ask me in the comments below. Okay, so yeah, I won't waste time on this. What we have here is our content view, and it's saving the initial data. And let me just go ahead and build and run. And yeah, I have already set up Google Service Info plist file. I have added through Swift packages Firebase, like I added Firestore and Firestore Swift beta. So yeah, we are going to use that. And basically, this is what you will see. Actually, nothing. But if you go over to your dashboard and select Firestore database, you will now see the saved database. So we have a list of all of these cities, and this is what we are going to query. Okay, so yeah, that is all the setup we need. So let's dive into this, because we are not just going to learn how to query. That's kind of the easiest part. We are going to learn a structure of how to use Firestore to our advantage in our code. So first of all, let me just tell you that this is going to be done in MVVM style, but with a little bit of extra. Model, view model, and CS, meaning collection and service. Collection means that, yeah, you know, in Firestore, we are having these collections, and all of the collections have their documents. Well, we are going to query according to one of those collections. So C stands for that, and service is going to stand for getting the actual documents. And we are going to have a little bit of generic there. It's going to be called Firestore DECODER. That is going to help us to get, in our case, query all of our all types of documents. You can use that later on in your project. So let's start off with that. Let's create a new file here, Swift file. Let's go click on next, and I will name this Firestore DECODER. And this will be a generic file, so we can reuse this on all of our models, because as you can see, we have only the city model, but we want to use it on all of our models. So we are going to import Firebase first, and then import Firebase Firestore Swift. Okay, this will be a struct. Let me just copy this out for the name, and this struct will only be available for the T types that are codable. You will see why we need this codable, because in Firebase Firestore Swift, we are going to get the data from the documents that we are getting from Firestore. But yeah, all of these models have to be codable, and what luck, city is indeed codable. Really nice. Okay, so what do we want to add in here? Well, we should add a get codables function that will get all the documents, add them into our T-type of model and return that array. So let's just type this out. So this will be a static function, so I can grab it whenever I want. Func, and it will be called get codables. And yeah, what type of codables? Well, for the query that we are giving it to it. Well, don't worry about the queries. We are going to set them up later on in this tutorial. For now, just know that those queries will be inserted right over here. So for query, that's a query that comes from Firebase. Great. And we want to have a completion handler because we are going to propagate all of this up to the view. So we do need these completion handlers. So completion at escaping, there we go. And what do we want to actually complete with here? Let me just finish the function. Well, we want to have a result. And that result will have an array of t's. As you recall, these queries will give us back an array of objects, be it an empty array or be it an array with only one element or more, of course. And in some cases, it might throw an error. Okay, so how do we query all our documents from Firebase? Well, we just go and grab query.get documents. We're going to use the first one because the source, we are using the default source of the FIRESTORE database. So hit 2 returns here. We are going to have 2 optionals, query snapshot and error. Query snapshot, and then we need this error. Okay, let me just make this small queue. Okay, so we need to take care of them. So if let error equals error, that's the first thing I always take care of. If we do get an error, we want to return. And before that, we want to complete with a failure of error. Okay, so now that we know that we don't have any errors, we want to make sure that the query snapshot is not nil. And we're going to do that with a guard let statement. So you know now if let, now you will know a guard let unwrapping. So guard let, let me just select this and copy it out, not to type that out. Else, we want to return. Okay, so before we return, like not do all of the code below, let's just complete. And we should complete with an actual error, so dot failure. But what kind of error? Well, you just drag and dropped a Firebase error.swift file into your project, and that has a no query snapshot error added into there. Go ahead and check that out. It's really, really awesome. Okay, so now that we got our query snapshot, it's time to grab all of the documents from our snapshot and kind of mold their data into our objects, the T's. Okay, so we are going to use compact mect here. So let objects, okay, equals, now we grab our query snapshot, and the query snapshot had some documents, and all of those documents, we are going to run compact mect, which means that we are going to have in here a document. Okay, we are going to have this document. Now, what are we going to do with this document? Well, we are going to use the power of Firebase Firestore Swift. We are going to try, because this throws, we are going to go and grab the documents data as you can see, this is throwing. We are going to grab it as t.self. And this is really nice because this is generic. It could be a post, it could be a person, it could be any type of object, like model that adheres to the codable. Okay, and finally, we want to go and call completion with the success value of our objects. Really nice. Really nice. Okay, so now, and get codables, that should be the proper function name. Now we are going to, well, this is kind of a helper, a Firestore decoder, it's a T with generics. We are going to create a service from MVV MCS, we are going to create a service again for Firestore. So it will be called Firestore service because we are going to create that for Firestore again with generics. So let me just go ahead, and before this, let's create a new file, a Swift file, and let's name this Firestore service. Okay. Of course, these Firestore decoder and Firestore service are not kind of full. This is just for querying. If you're interested in the whole Firestore service and the Firestore decoder, go ahead and check out the mentoring. Okay, so let's move on and let's import SwiftUI here because, yeah, this is a SwiftUI project, and let's import Firebase. Okay, this time it will be a class. So class, let me just go ahead and grab Firestore service right over here. And what type? It doesn't have any superclass, but it only has the ability to have these kind of objects like T that are codable. Okay, so let's create our static function, and this will be quite easy. So static func, and let's just call this query, and let's just go underscore query and query. Again, we are passing in our query, and let's have a completion again at escaping, and yeah, the same will apply. So it's the same result that we had on the Firestore decoder. So that is result, and an array of t's, and then some error. Okay, so as you can see, this is a much more readable way, because right over here we are going to call Firestore service query, but we could just also have Firestore service.read or .update, and all of those will in some cases use the Firestore decoder. So let's just use the Firestore decoder at this point. And let's just add in here that T, because yeah, it will complain otherwise. It will not know which type of is it. And get codables. For the query, we're just going to pass in the query, and the completion is the same thing, so we're just going to type out completion. Really nice. And that's it for the Firestore service. Again, if you do want to know more about the Firestore service, check out the mentoring sessions. Now it's time to create a collection file for our cities collection inside Firestore. So under the content view, let's create another new file, and that will be cities collection. Let's click on create right over there. Again, let's import Firebase. So import Firebase, and this will be a class again, and cities collection. Let's add it in and there. And how do we actually know? Is this a cities collection? Is this a profiles collection? Well, we are going to create here a static, a private static let called path. It will be a string, and it will have the path to our collection. In our case, it's cities. So let's create that first. So private static, so we can access it in our static functions, and then path. This is our name of type string, and it will be called cities. Exactly the same that we have right over here. So cities. Okay, so let this cities collection, we are going to call this inside our view model. I know it's kind of a chain of events right over here, moving from one file to the other, but this is highly flexible, and really one file has one purpose only. Okay, so cities collection, let's create our static func here for our query. So query, and in this place, so well, you could give it a better name like query cities that are, or query this or query that. because in the cities collection, we are going to actually add in the specific query. I'm going to go through quite a lot here, quite a lot of examples, but actually if you have more than one query, you should create new functions for them. This is just one, but make sure that you do have them separately. So we have our query, and all we care about is a completion, and we are going to complete at escaping. Okay, and this time around, we already know that we do need, let me just go ahead and have that in. We do need a city. So at this point, we can just safely create our result with an array of cities. And of course, the failure of error. Okay, now you might not use this city result. So let me just show you how you can just make this optional. So you just give it a default value, 2 parentheses, underscore in. So this is how you make this completion optional. Okay, so how do we query? Well, we just go Firestore service.query. And as you can see, we have a query and the completion. So the completion is okay because we just go completion. But what about the query? Well, this is where the magic comes in. This is where you can set up your own queries. So let's create one query equals Firestore dot collection, and you just add in here the path. As you can see now, this is really nice because you don't have any typos. And let's just add our first query where field, and let's just go is equal to, and the field, maybe state, is equal to California. Okay, so now we can just add this query in there. Really, really nice. Okay, so we got our cities collection. Now it's time to create our view model. Okay, let's just create our view model, and that will be, of course, named content view model. So let's create our content view model right over here. New file, Swift file, and content view model. Okay. And yeah, let's import SwiftUI because we are going to use that. And let's import also, well, not really Firebase. We don't need Firebase, I believe. Okay, so now we just create a class. And that class will be named content view model. And because this is a view model, it has to be an observable object. And that observable, and we do need an observable object here because we are using it firstly on a SwiftUI view. And secondly, we are going to need to have published variables here. And the first one, well, in our case, our first and last one is cities. So cities, and that will be an array of cities. And by default, the default value of it's an empty array. Okay, so we are going to create a new function that will be called on the onAppear of our view, and query cities, for example. Func query cities, and we are going to completion. And at this point, you might let me just type out escaping first. At escaping. And we have that completion right over there, and the function. Okay, so you might get used to just completing with everything, like the array of cities. Well, in our case, we are not going to complete with an array of cities because we don't want to move that into the view. We don't care about that. We are going to add the got cities into this published variable. So what we do care about is the error, if there is any, because we do need that on the view itself, because maybe you do want to have it inside an alert to present to the user. So let's just have here an error, and it's optional because, yeah, if we do have a list of cities, then we want to complete with nil. Okay, so query for cities, and we just go cities collection dot query with the completion, And as you can see, we have a result of city, arrays, and error. So let's hit return there, type out a result, and then just result. Yeah, we do need that with a small r. Let's just go through it, switch result. Let's wait for Xcode to complain to add in those two cases, the success and the failure value. Let's fix that. Really, really nice. And now let's take care of the error first. So let error. And we are just going to complete. So completion, come on, completion. Okay, completion. There we go. Dot error. We are going to complete with that error. Now, if we do get a list of cities, then we are going to use them. Cities. Then we just go self.cities, that is the published variable, equals cities. That is the array of cities that we got from our cities collection and so forth down the line. And after that, we want to go completion.nil, completion open parentheses nil, because there were no errors. Again, I'm going to show you how we are going down and up with the data. But now, let's just go into finally our content view and just set all of this up, because all the logic part, all the data business is now in separate files, all tucked away nicely. So first of all, we want to set up our view model. So let's create an state object. Let's just have it as a private var and view model, and this will be a content view model, and let's initialize it. Let me just have here some more space. So we have our view model right over here on appear. Besides setting up the initial data, if that is available, we are going to go view model dot query cities, and we have this error in the completion. Now, if there is an error, so if let error equals error, then we are going to return. Otherwise, we are just going to print out, let's say, the view models cities. Okay, so yeah, you don't have to print this out. Also, you should have this error showed inside an alert. Currently, I'm just going to print it out. So error dot, its localized description is going to be printed out. Okay, that's fine. So we are querying the cities and we are adding it into the view model cities published variable. But how are we going to actually show this on the view? Well, that's pretty straightforward. We want to have a for each view here, so we have a list of it. So let's just start adding that for each, and we are going to use the view model dot cities. Okay, now we need to have these identifiables. We need to give it an ID. The for each view has to have an ID because these cities are not identifiable. Maybe in your case the view model will be identifiable, but it's not on our case. So yeah, just I did not make it identifiable, just so you know how to handle all of these. So ID and then /dot, and we are going to use the name as the ID because I do know that all of the names are unique. And right over here we are going to back a city, and you just want to add in there and let's just have a view of text and then city dot name. Okay, and finally we can build and run. So this will query all the cities that are in the state of California. Okay, so there we go. Let's just wait for it. And there we go, Los Angeles and San Francisco. And we just printed out those two cities in the log. And if you take a look at the database, you will see that indeed those are the two. Okay, so let me just go ahead and show you a little bit more of the query options, because besides having this structure, you also want to learn a little bit more about how to query. So there is a file on the downloads folder that you have that has these query types. So let me just copy all of this out and just paste it into the cities collection. And let me just move that over there and just pasting it there. By the way, if you click on the link, you will see all of the explanations from the Firebase documentation, because maybe they will add some, maybe something changes, and they do have this kind of rules. How can you mix and match these queries? Okay, so let me just, these that you can see right over here are just go through them, and they are individual, like one by one. Now you can also compound the queries. As you can see, state is equal to California, population is greater than 1 million. So you can also mix and match, like compound these queries. So I won't go into details. Go ahead and check all of these out. Also, you have the documentation that explains everything, and also the rules, what can and what what you cannot do. And I would like to show you when you create your first compound query, because you already saw that we selected this state is equals to California. So let's build and run this, and let's see what happens, because this is your first compound query. Let's see what actually happens here. So yeah, we should get it, and we don't see anything, but take a look at the log. You can see the query requires an index. So yeah, by default, the database is indexed, the Firestore database is indexed. But if you do want to have these compound queries, you want to create them. So let's just copy out this link. It's so powerful. Copy out that link, go into a browser, a new one, paste it in there, hit return, and it will go over there and ask you, do you want to create this composite index? Let's create that index. Of course, this will take a while, so it says it's building. It will take a few minutes, and we won't wait for that. But after that, you will be able to query that compound. With that compound index, you will be able to query compoundly. Okay, I think that was funny. Okay, so just to recap, let me just show you how this MVVM works. So we have our view, that's the content view. It has a view model. That's our view model. Also, the view model has access to the model. So MVVM. Okay. Then we have on the view model, we have these collections. So it could be any other type of collection, by the way, like profiles collection or whatever. That's the C part. And the collection, we are creating all of these collections for the profiles, cities, and so on, because then we have this path. And then we can just use collection and path, and it is not error prone anymore. Then we have this query. Okay, for example, we have our query. It could just have create, update. If you do want to learn that, go ahead and check out the mentoring. So Firestore service query. So why do we have this Firestore service? Well, because in all of the collections, like the profiles collection or the cities collection that we have here, we can use firestore.query.create, because that is generic. So let's just jump in there, and let me just show you how it is. So it is Firestore service. It's like below the collection. So that is generic. So we can just add in here any type of model that adheres to be codable. And then we just go query all of that stuff. And then we can just go Firestore decoder, again, generic, get codables. Also, if you want to get one, you should create a get codable, which I already have on the mentoring session. You can find that out. This Firestore decoder, as you can see, it has all of these error handlings, like you just guard unwrap, like the query snapshot, if let unwrap the error. Why is this? Why go all through these files? Well, because otherwise you would have to write all of this out over and over and over again. So yeah, it's scalable, really, really nice. Also, take a look at the Firebase error and the initial data, if you care about what I said that they're up, and the query types. And that is it. Now you know how you can easily query from Firebase's Firestore database. Now, if you do want to learn a lot more how to create an entire Firestore service, I highly recommend you check out the mentoring at rebeloper.com/mentoring, where you can have a 60-minute Zoom call with me. And of course, I will teach you about SwiftUI, fix your bug in your code, and let's just meet on a mentoring session next time. I cannot stress enough how important it is to structure your code this way, for example, because you will separate the concerns. You will know MVVM and CS. Okay, that's it for Firebase's Firestore querying. If you did like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And while you are at it, make sure to hit that notification bell to get notified of the next videos. Next videos, like I have already published these ones. Go ahead and check them out. They are really, really cool. They are all about SwiftUI, Swift in general. And as usual, I will see you in the next one.